Well, it is finally here. Spider-Man Brand New Day has arrived, and I quite enjoyed it. The movie pretty much met all my expectations, but it didn't really exceed them. In today's video, I will give you my thoughts on the film, and take a look at what I got right and what I got wrong in my predictions video. If you have not seen that, please go check it out, because I'll be referring to it quite a bit in today's review. Oh, yeah, spoilers, if that wasn't clear already. One of the biggest strengths of this movie was Destin Daniel Cretton as the director. He was a stellar pick. The action was top-notch, the direct nods to comic panels in the montage at the beginning looked wonderful on the big screen, and the clear inspiration from the Insomniac games in some of the action scenes made me really happy as a fan of the games. The visuals were so crisp, and overall, it looks like a movie where the director actually had a say in the visuals of the film, which is something I complained about in my previous video. I think most superhero movies, specifically ones in the MCU as of late, lack a unique style and vision. I want more superhero movies where you can tell who directed it just from watching. Another thing I really liked was Jean Grey as the antagonist. I was a bit worried about her being the villain of the movie in my last video, but she was portrayed really well. I'm glad she was actually sinister early on in the movie before Peter understands her motivation. I mean, she literally makes a dude she's controlling get hit by a car. That's pretty damn dark for a character that was and probably will continue to be redeemed in future MCU movies. I also definitely think the events of this film are setting up things for future X-Men movies, beyond just obviously having Jean Grey in it. Jean's actions could easily start anti-mutant sentiment in the MCU, and it seems to me that Spider-Man will be responsible, or was responsible, for making a mutant power suppressant that could come up in future movies. Honestly, this movie made me very excited for the future of the MCU, which is surprising because I've kind of given up on it in the past few years, so that's great. Speaking of Jean, she and all of the other Marvel characters featured in this film, Hulk, Punisher, Black Widow, they were all integrated perfectly. One of the things I was concerned about in my last video was that there were so many characters in this movie, and I thought they were going to be poorly integrated into the plot. But that was not the case at all. Everything made sense. The scene with Yelena in the bathhouse was super funny and made sense for Peter to contact someone like her who would have more intel. Bruce Banner was used really well as the inspiration for Peter suppressing his new powers, and Frank was surprisingly really funny and touching. The scene in the hospital where he's apologizing for shooting Peter was really something and felt like it was ripped from the Ultimate comics. Instead of just being cameos that are only there to make you gawk at the screen, everyone felt like they were just naturally woven into this plot. It really felt like a Spider-Man movie that took place in the MCU, and not an MCU movie starring Spider-Man, which the last three Tom movies kind of felt like, if that makes any sense. Also, I don't know where else to mention this, but thank you writers for using Jean DeWolf as Peter's cop buddy instead of Yuri. Yuri Watanabe is great in the games and the comics, and she was introduced after a certain something happened to Jean DeWolf in the comics, but it always kind of bugged me that she took the spotlight from the OG badass lady cop Spidey is allies with in the comics, and it just felt good to see her here. Finally, I loved the plot. I mean, it was pretty much everything I asked for in my last video, so how could I not love it? Peter is fully given in to being Spider-Man and avoiding all other parts of his life. And over the course of the film, he learns that to be the best hero he can be, he needs to embrace both sides of his life. And Jean also begins to learn that her powers can and should be used for more than just revenge. All this being said, I do not think the movie is perfect. Despite saying in my last video I was worried there were too many villains, after seeing this movie, I thought the Rogues Gallery wasn't utilized enough. I was hoping to see at least a little bit of classic Spidey banter with each of the villains during the montage early in the film. But for some of them, it was literally just one shot of Spidey fighting them. Like literally just the one frame we kind of saw in all those trailers. I thought that was lame. Also, the writers seemed to have the problem I did when it came to adding the hand into the movie. I have no idea how the hand would fit in here, because they were just completely forced in. I mean, the fight with them was awesome, probably one of the best fight scenes in the movie, but it pretty much makes zero sense for them to be working for damage control, especially if this is the same hand clan from the Daredevil and Defenders show. Truth is, though, these villains were always going to be side stuff, so it's not really the biggest issue in the world for them to not be featured too heavily, but I don't know, I guess I was expecting more from them. Speaking of issues that are not that big of a deal, this movie carries over a few things from Tom's last trilogy of Spidey flicks that cause very minor issues in this movie, in my opinion, and I just want to touch on those briefly. I like when Spidey has homemade techie gadgets and stuff like that. I love the web bombs, his gamer PC setup, 3D printer thing that fixed his suit. All of that stuff is sick and makes sense for this version of Pete to have since he is fully just being Spider-Man. What I don't like, though, is his homemade AI Eve. Why does he need his own Jarvis? They tried this in Homecoming as well, and I did not like it then, and I don't like it now. I think they use it to try and give him someone to talk to so he can kind of rant like he does a lot in the comics, but just make him talk to himself like he usually does in those books. That would be especially funny and kind of depressing in this story since he's so lonely. Like maybe over these last few years he's just developed a habit of talking to himself. I think that'd be kind of interesting. They still refuse to talk about Uncle Ben, even in passing. Why? Why? The scene in Pete's head where Aunt May is talking to Peter right after finding out he's Spider-Man is very touching, especially when we get to see Jean experience from Peter's point of view. I just wish they slipped in a little line in this already existing monologue. Just something like, oh, the people who love you don't love you because you're special, they love you because you're you, yada yada yada. I love you because you're you, so did Ben. Just something simple. Or just have Jean say to Pete, I'm sorry about your aunt and uncle, instead of just, I'm sorry about your aunt. Why does the MCU have this weird Uncle Ben erasure? It makes no sense. To my understanding, he exists in the MCU, but the fact that I'm even questioning myself if Uncle Ben exists in the MCU is a problem. I get that they want to avoid the origin story stuff, but it's not like the death of your father figure happens and then you just never speak about it ever again. My next complaint is definitely a more serious one. It seemed to me that they just completely gloss over how Peter got these new abilities. I gave a bunch of hypothetical reasons of how Spider-Man might get his new powers in my predictions video. Maybe since Peter fully committed himself to be Spider-Man, his powers are evolving because he's using them more than ever, like some kind of weird sped-up evolution. Maybe the weird magic involved in making people forget he was Spider-Man has awakened something in his DNA. Perhaps meeting the other two Spider-Man is causing some kind of weird reaction with his powers. Or maybe being snapped out of existence and back into existence has caused some kind of mutation. Hell, I mean, it could be as simple as just over the years that he's been Spider-Man and had these powers, they're starting to change. And they kind of just went with the simplest and laziest option. He's stressed and emotionally distraught and has been Spider-Man too much lately. And it's like, okay, I get it. Seeing the love of your life with another man probably would make me want to throw myself off a building too. But why does that make him have new powers now? Is that more emotionally straining than getting his identity leaked? Or seeing Aunt May killed in front of him? I don't know. I was just hoping for more of an explanation of where they came from and how he was able to finally get full control of them. I still think my post-blip X gene mutation theory would have worked well here, but I digress. Honestly, the more I think about it, this complaint kind of applies to a few other aspects of the movie. Jean just gets away free. She caused all this damage, and I was hoping for more of a resolution with her and Spider-Man. Maybe have him straight up tell her that what she did was wrong and that she needs to use her powers well, yada yada yada, great power, great responsibility, you get it. But instead, he gets shot and she saves his life, which I like, but they just never speak again, even after Peter tells her that he's there for her. It's like, did you guys interchange phone numbers off screen or something? How are you going to be there for her? Or is she just going to telepathically randomly talk to you in your mind? That seems like an invasion of privacy, I don't know. Where's the Hulk? Is Professor Hulk no longer a thing? Is Banner in trouble with the government or damage control over destroying that building? What's up with MJ's boyfriend? Who is he? How did they meet? Why are they having issues in their relationship? I mean, I already mentioned this power stuff, but it just seems to me like by the end, there were a lot of loose ends that felt like they should have been wrapped or webbed up nicely, but they just weren't. Alright, now I want to take a look back at my last video and see how accurate my predictions were. I guess we can start with my main concern. I've been somewhat worried this movie is going to make some of the same mistakes as previous Spider-Man movies, specifically having too many important plot points and leaving most of them underdeveloped. As I mentioned earlier, this movie did a really great job of juggling all the different characters and plot points in it, so kudos to the writers, editors, and the director. Another thing I was worried about was the whole concept of Man-Spider, and I thought that it'd be hard to pull that kind of a crazy mutation off in live action. I do not want them to go full force with the Man-Spider stuff. I do not want to see Peter with 6 arms. I'm glad they didn't go full force with the mutation stuff and they had that sort of restraint, but I really do think it was too restrained. I mentioned maybe they should have had a nightmare sequence where we kind of see Peter's fears, and I wanted that to feature Man-Spider in some way. And it would also be cool to see that nightmare sequence where Pete becomes Man-Spider, as a reference, obviously, but also showing Peter's fear of where these new changes could lead. But they didn't even do that. Also, Sadie Sink was Jean Grey, so me and everyone else in the world who thought that was the case are vindicated. And I got the basic plot and theme of the movie kind of dead on. It'd be too long to show all those clips of what I said in the last video, so go check that out if you want to see my full plot prediction and stuff. But yeah, I kind of got that as right as you could without seeing the movie, which feels good. As I said in the last one, Peter learns to embrace his new powers and to embrace letting the people he loves back in his life, and Jean learns from Peter's example. It was all very well done. I mean, when you think about it, Peter stepping in front of Frank's sniper shot to save Jean is almost a shot-for-shot remake of Aunt May's sacrifice in No Way Home. I mean, that's awesome. I love when things mirror each other like that. Really good stuff. My biggest airball prediction was my X gene idea, but some people who were blipped and came back have had a weird mutation and now have an activated X gene. For example, Jean Grey. Oh, and you know who else was also snapped and then came back? Spider-Man. That's right. I want these new powers he's getting to be kind of a form of an X-Men-like mutation. And man, I thought that would have been so cool, but they didn't do it. I mean, it was kind of a far-fetched idea. But as I mentioned earlier, they really didn't explain much when it comes to mutants or where Spidey's new powers were stemming from. So I guess maybe I'm not necessarily wrong, they just didn't really explain it. I'm clearly grasping at straws if you can't tell. But who knows, maybe in a future X-Men related project they'll explain where mutants came from, and I guess in my head I'll just continue to think that Peter is some kind of pseudo-mutant. Just please don't make mutants being around now as simple and as stupid as I think it's probably going to be. I think they're more likely to pull some bullshit where they just appear after the soft reboot that's bound to happen after Secret Wars, but I think this would be so much cooler. Honestly, I got a surprising amount right. Like I said, other than the X-Gene stuff, a lot of what I got wrong was just little details here and there. My predictions weren't necessarily scene-by-scene details, but I mean, I got the movie's themes, Jean Grey's role, Bruce Banner's role, Peter's character arc, and even my biggest concern about the MCU characters all kind of ended up being pretty close. I mean, I said in my last video that if they wanted the movie to work, they should make the plot something like this. And that's what they did, and the movie worked. So that makes me feel nice, I guess. I don't know. All in all, Spider-Man Brand New Day was pretty much everything I was hoping it would be, which was a really fun Spider-Man movie that focuses on some of the classic elements previous Tom Holland movies lacked, all while tying into the MCU seamlessly and concisely. It is certainly the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, but I would need to rewatch some of my other favorite live-action movies before I dethrone those with this one. It definitely is not as good as either of the Spider-Verse movies, and I never expected it to be. Maybe I should make a tier list with all these damn movies. Anyways, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. It was a well-made, well-paced, and well-acted movie, and overall a fun action movie with some minor problems that bring it down just a bit. And after the last few Spidey movies, that's really all it had to be. Thank you guys for watching. As I said earlier and throughout the video, if you have not seen my previous video, please go check it out. Obviously, I want you to check it out because I made it, but I do think it has, some value even after the movie came out. It's kind of fun to go back and watch and see how close I got and also some of the stuff I got wrong. So please go check that out. I'll link that in the description, and it should be popping up on screen now. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, please like, please subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.